All right, this is episode 7 of the Twin Pod. Today we have Ted Kulakevich on today. Thank you, Ted, for being here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so Ted, if we look at kind of an outside perspective of you, you've grown I would say, a pretty big graphic design agency. You're a really good graphic designer. You've done our logo for Deco Films, which I've gotten so much compliments on that thing. Where did you kind of get that inspiration to go into graphic design, to build an agency? How did you even get into graphic design to begin with?
Ever since I was a kid, I was always artistic and loved to draw and sketch. And I was always into that kind of stuff. And then I remember when I was about to graduate high school, there was a program where they kind of let you go ahead and start training to be a CNA. And at that point, I didn't really think I could make money doing design. So I'm I'll try the CNA thing, see how it goes. And my parents were kind of pushing me in that direction. A lot of Slavic parents try to push you in there. And so I did the course. I went to the 2-week training at the end, and that gave me PTSD for 6 months. And I'm yeah, this isn't for me. So I dropped out.
CNA, that's medical, right?
Yeah, it's lower than a nurse. So they do all the caring for the people. Where the nurses, they kind of prescribe medicine and do less of that hands-on stuff.
All the dirty work, like wiping people's butts and all that.
Essentially, yeah. Yeah, after I had some experiences there, because so when you go through that program, you have to learn all of the different things. And then for that 2 weeks, you actually go and you apply it, what you learned. And you have to do give somebody a shower, change bedpans, stuff like that. And then after going through that, I had for 6 months, like I said, I would smell a smell and it would come back to me, take me back. And I'm
my God.
And yeah, I dropped out after a year of college, and I just joined my dad in construction.
I got you. And I remember a couple of our cousins, they would say that when people heard that you dropped out of college, it was this big, massive deal. Were people telling you that you're making the wrong decision, everything like that?
My parents weren't too happy with me dropping out. And yeah, for the most part, nobody in our family really dropped out. I guess my older brother, well, he got his degree, so he didn't really drop out, but he didn't pursue it after that. I'm probably the first, because we're the older out of the cousins, so I'm probably the first one to actually drop out. My parents weren't too happy, but I mean, they weren't too moved by it either. Yeah. I was working on tile, so I was still making money, and my dad has a business.
So how did you, if we go a little bit back in time, how did you even realize that you have a talent for drawing, for graphic design? Where did that come from?
Yeah, I think it's just when I was growing up, I always loved to create things. I always loved to draw. All my notebooks at school, they're all just covered with sketches and drawings, and you have notes on one side, and I have all my little games and logos and stuff on the other side. And I also really loved when I was in high school, my favorite classes were art, anything to do with art, 2D, 3D. All my other grades were, D's and F's at one point, but I always loved art and creating. So yeah, I think it was from there.
Did you take any classes for graphic design or art or anything like that?
So I did take a art class. There was this older lady that my parents found out about her. She was giving lessons. So I spent a few months going to her, and that honestly really helped me a lot. Understand the theory of when light hits an object, this is where the shadow is, this is where the light is.
Yeah.
And that I still use that theory that I learned with her in my designs today.
Dang.
Can you explain what graphic design is, and then how what your business is?
Yeah, so generally graphic design is anything that you do, create any kind of graphics for whether it's digital or physical, that falls, it's a pretty broad category. So it's everything from icons, illustrations, logos, websites, product, apps, anything visual basically. But there's a lot of categories that break apart when you kind of go deeper into it. So there's people that just focus on print design, they do billboards and posters and that kind of stuff. There's people who just focus on logos. There's people who just focus on illustrations. Others who just do websites. So it's pretty broad.
Got you. And then what is What is your business?
So what we do is basically the digital side of things, but I'm like one of those rare cases where I do everything.
Okay.
Usually people try to specialize in this industry because like it takes a long time to get really good at like one thing, you know.
Yeah.
If you want to become a brand designer, you have to spend like hundreds of hours learning everything about branding. If you want to become a web designer, you have to learn everything about like font sizes and layouts and the, you know, best use cases. For me, like because of my mentors and the path that I took, I just like did everything. I loved doing illustrations. I loved doing logos. And now I do a lot of web and product.
Got you.
What's some of the biggest brands you worked with? Are you able to say that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few small companies that you guys might have heard of. Like some of these I worked direct. Others I worked went through Unfold my time there. Facebook, Berkshire Hathaway, Sotheby's,
Dang.
Disney.
Just a few small companies.
Just a few small
Nothing
companies.
Yeah,
crazy.
a lot of the other companies like people might not know just because they're in the tech space.
Gotcha. What was your first graphic design gig, or how did you first even get into that job?
So I remember like distinctly when I was working with my dad. It was like a year after I dropped out of college. It was around like December time, and it was pretty cold out. I remember we're doing like this front porch, and I'm scrolling on Instagram, and I see Eddie Lomanovsky's posts, and he's posting like these drones and these like cool monitors and stuff, and I'm like, man, like that's so cool. I want to do that eventually, you know.
Yeah.
And I finally like worked up the courage to talk to him after church one Sunday. He kind of showed me like what they're up to, and then I would just basically show him like some work that I started doing. He told me about the Hive, which is a place where designers got together and like they rented a building. And after like a few months, he sold me a laptop, a tablet, and a monitor. And at that point, I probably had like $2,000 in my account, and I spent $1,000 on that.
Yeah.
So basically, half my net worth invested into design.
Dang.
And at that point, I was like committed. I'm like, whatever's gonna happen, like I'm gonna succeed in this, you know. And I really started to learn from them, him and David. And then after I got like decent, Ed hired me on like an hourly rate, and David also gave me a few clients to manage.
So what's the importance for if someone has like a small business or any business in general, what's the importance of having that branding, having someone or even hiring a graphic designer to make all that branding? What's the importance of that?
Essentially, like the goal of any brand or branding is to get people to resonate with your brand to eventually, get them into some kind of funnel and make a sale. And what branding does is it targets a specific demographic or target audience that your product is for.
Yeah.
So like if you're targeting golfers, you want a certain aesthetic, you know. If you do like these bubbly, colorful, like juvenile looking designs, they're not really going to apply into the golf world.
Yeah.
Same thing as like if you look at Rolex or the fancy brands,
Yeah.
we call them the ruler archetype, and their goal is to, you know, assert dominance and like be this luxury brand and feel, and all their branding and their visuals, they reflect that, you know, top tier target audience that they're targeting to. So that's kind of the main goal for branding.
So basically, to be recognized.
To be recognized and to be unique and kind of stand out, because there's like so much noise everywhere you look. You see ads and, you know, marketing trying to grab your attention, and if you can cut through the noise, create something unique that your target audience will react to, then you have a solid brand.
Yeah. I know. So the logo you made me for Deco Films, I posted up on Instagram and like our website and stuff like that. And then I had a couple of realtors. We were at like a networking event, and the realtors came up to me like, who made your logo? Like that thing is so like good. Like, what is that? Like, how did you even come up with the name? How did you get the logo, the branding, everything looks so good? And it's just a testament to when you have good branding, when you have a good logo, people recognize that, and they want to work with you just because it seems like you know what you're doing, you know?
Yeah, people definitely notice good branding.
Yeah.
And one of the things, like when I created the Deco logo, is my goal was to kind of get away from like that wedding videography logo style that you see. It's like a script font, you know, everybody uses it. And I just wanted to make something bold.
Yeah.
That's why we had those like bold letters. It was very short, so that's my favorite. When the text is short, it's very easy to create like good, strong, like memorable marks.
Mm-hmm.
And then the results
Yeah.
speak for themselves.
Yeah, for sure. If we go back again in time a little bit, when did you realize that you wanted to work for yourself? When was that moment that clicked? Like, all right, I don't want to work 9 to 5. I don't want to work under somebody. I don't want to get paid hourly. I want to do something for myself. You know?
Yeah, I think the biggest inspiration for that came from my dad, just because he essentially works for himself.
Mm-hmm.
He works as a contractor, so he's not technically employed by any one company.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like how I got started by myself, like just working with him, seeing like, okay, he's a contractor, he does the work, and he moves on, and he finishes the project and he goes home,
Mm-hmm.
where he's not like tied to those 9 to 5 parameters that other people are.
Yeah.
And then I just never really saw myself working like full time for just one company, especially like in the space that I'm in.
Yeah.
Where do you see your business? So we just went back in time to look at the whole thing when you were working with the tile business. But if we look 10 years ahead, where do you see your business going in like 10 years? Or who do you see yourself working with in 10 years?
Yeah, we're kind of like in a interesting time right now with the business. So I about a year ago I rebranded from Ted Designs, which is like what I started with, to KULAK. So my last name's Kulakevich, so I just shortened it to KULAK.
Mm-hmm.
And KULAK means like fist in Russian or Ukrainian, but Americans don't know that. It's just the easy, like memorable.
Yeah.
It is really memorable. It's a great name.
Yeah, and now like I'm in this period where like I have multiple clients that we're managing, and I have contractors that work for me now. So I have a guy from Vietnam, I have my brother, I have some friends,
Mm-hmm.
and now we're kind of like in this middle tier. It's like a small agency or design studio, and we service multiple clients on like a retainer basis. For the future though, I'm thinking like just train up the guys that have working with me, and then start having each of them run like 1, 2, 3 clients off on their own, and I can enter the role of like a creative director, because currently like I'm still in the trenches, like every day looking at things, revising things, sending updates to clients and stuff. But eventually I want to raise up the people I work with so that they can do that part, and then I can just focus on providing feedback and running the business.
What's been like your biggest form of advertising? Have you done any advertising or Instagram or anything like that?
So I post like on Instagram and LinkedIn, but my biggest source of clients, like since I got started, has been Dribble, and it's like a website where designers post their work. It's like one of the most like quality, or it was, because like recently Dribble kind of fell off, and the leads have stopped. But since I started like years ago now, and I grew a pretty big following, like 50K followers, I was able to get a ton of leads from there. And that's actually how I got connected with Disney. One of the creative directors reached out. They just saw my work on there. So most of my work has come from Dribble, but now I'm at the point where like I've worked with so many different people and clients that they either come back, or I guess like the latest clients that I'm receiving is just like word of mouth from friends, recommendations, stuff like that.
Like referrals, stuff like that?
Yeah, just mainly off referrals now.
Yeah. And so what kind of stuff do you guys do in graphic design? Do you guys like full service, or do you guys focus on a couple of things?
So yeah, we're basically full service. We do everything from branding to illustrations. Like we have some clients that we just do websites for. Other clients where we're doing like a product, like apps. So a good mix of everything, I would say.
Do you guys push the retainer model, or do you guys do by project as well?
We do by project, but retainer model is just so much more lucrative. Like, because when you got like a fixed retainer, it's basically like getting a salary each month. It's stable and it's ongoing. It's consistent. Whereas like one-off projects, you have to work to get that client. You have to send proposals. You do the project, you build them, and now you're looking for the next client. So it's much better just to have like 5, 6 retainers ongoing. They're just steady flow, than find new clients constantly.
Right. And then how did you learn how to like grow a business, scale a business, like all the finances, stuff like that? Was that something that you had a mentor teach you, or was this just something you learned on your own? Like, how are you able to scale your business?
Yeah, I wish I had a mentor for that. So I had great mentors to like actually learn design
Yeah.
and get good at design, and that's why I feel like I grew so quickly. But in terms of like the business stuff, I know there's like a ton of gurus out there, selling their courses, but I was never really into that. In terms of like figuring out the business, I just had to do it myself, trial and error. Like at first, I was working for $15 an hour. Then it was 25. Then a few clients later, it was 50. Then more and more and more.
Yeah.
But like I had to climb that ladder over like months and months. But there is a book that I read which was really like impactful of how to think about selling your services. And it was saying like, if we were like in the labor industry, like you can pay anybody $15 an hour to dig a hole,
Yeah.
that's not really a skilled labor. What we do is like a skill, provide a skilled service. Like not anybody can just do it, you have to have like years of experience, learning, training, and you have to have like that artistic visual sense, I guess, to know what's good, what's not, what works. And so I can't justify charging like, $20 an hour for something that took 10 years to learn.
Dang.
Right.
Because it is a skilled job that I'm providing and a service. And so instead of just being like, hey, my time's worth, $20 an hour, you approach it with saying, hey, how much will your company benefit from me doing the work for you? So for example, say you're making 10 your business is making 10K a month. If we come and like we redesign your landing page, your conversions increase and spike, and now you're making 20K a month, is it worth for your company to pay, let's say, I don't know, 20K for the service? You're going to make your money back and more, in 2 months.
It's a good point. Yeah.
So that's how that's how you have to think about it with running the business. I think it's called Winning Without Pitching Manifesto. That was the book.
Winning without pitching. So basically, you're selling them on the fact that their business is going to grow this much because you're working with them. So they can't charge you, or you can't charge them on an hourly basis because of all the experience you have and the amount of benefit you're bringing to their business, basically.
Yeah, like obviously, like there's different tiers of clients. Like some clients don't think like that. They just need somebody to do the design for them,
Yeah.
And those are like the retainer clients. But there are other clients where it's like, how much is branding worth for you? If you're a mom and pop shop, the cost of branding for you is like a sandwich, If you're like a massive company that makes, a couple million a year,
Yeah.
you want to make sure that you invest in branding and you do it right. So you're going to pay like 100K for branding because that's what it's worth for you, So branding is subjective. Like every client that I approach, like I just see like, okay, how much is this branding worth for you? And if it's worth it, then
so each client is like would be a different price then, because they each have a different risk associated with that branding.
Yeah, essentially that's how I have to think about it.
Like Facebook, if they were to use you for a rebrand, they're risking a lot more than say K&K Bakery down the street,
Exactly.
Because they're way smaller.
Yeah, a good example of this is what's that orange company, that super popular one?
Orange Theory, or
Wait,
like juice.
The juice company.
Tropicana?
Simple Mayo.
Tropicana?
Tropicana, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so they did a rebrand, and they had like this nice like orange. It was like a realistic orange on their label, on their container. And after they did the rebrand, they just put like a cup of orange juice. It looked very sterile and like white, and it didn't differentiate in the aisle from any of the other labels or something. And they lost like insane amount of money after that rebrand. Just changing the package, Like that's the kind of risk that companies want to avoid, and that's why they hire like bigger and bigger companies and pay more money to professionals who aren't going to screw it up.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of people some people would be saying, well, I could go on Fiverr or Upwork and charge someone, I don't know, $100 and they can make me a logo. What would you say to someone like that?
Yeah, those are the people I don't work with. Yeah, a lot of my clients, they're like in the tech space, we have clients in New York, we have clients in Silicon Valley area, and I usually work in the tech space. I don't really work with like smaller companies like mom and pop shops, just because they don't understand like the pricing. Like, oh, why do you charge me so much? The same thing you just said. I'm just gonna go on Fiverr, and I just say, okay, go on Fiverr. Like,
Yeah. They're essentially gonna pay for what they get. $100, and the logo is gonna be pretty much crap.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right. What's the biggest lesson you learned in your, or what's the biggest struggle you had in your business, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, the biggest struggle I would say is probably just managing my time and trying to find like a work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
Before I got married, I would I would wake up at like 12 p.m. and work till like 3 a.m. And that was my life for like years. Like I
Mm-hmm.
disappeared, I stopped hanging out. This was like before I was married and stuff, when I was like 19 or whatever, when I was
Yeah.
just starting. And at that point, like, I was working, everything was great, growing, learning, and then I got married and I'm like, well, now I can't stay up till 3 a.m., 2 a.m.,
Yeah.
Now I have to wake up at a reasonable time, 8, 9 a.m., work around 6. So what I try to do is like cram all of that, what I did before, in like the 12-hour space in like a regular, like, 9 to 5, 9 to 6 hour. And I just had to learn to kind of let go, because like with every business, there comes a time where you become like the bottleneck.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still struggling with this today. It's trying to figure it out, because like on one hand, like I want the quality that we produce and put out to clients to be like my standard, my level,
Yeah.
but not everybody can, achieve that perfectly. And I have to like find a good middle ground where like clients are happy and
Mm.
we're happy with the quality we put
Yeah.
out. And I guess the biggest challenge to overcome is like finding good people to do the
Yeah.
work, because not everybody, gives 150%.
Yeah, because then you can't be the one that's always doing the graphic design, always doing the work, because then you can't grow. You're limited by your time.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but if you have a really high standard and no one else can achieve that, then I mean, you're gonna have to do that all.
What's
So,
one quality or some qualities you look for when you're trying to hire someone, and to know if they're going to be a good candidate for your business or not? Like, in essence, an employee, not necessarily another business, but
Usually, like what I look from people is, I mean, first and foremost, like, do they know what they're doing? Are
yeah,
they selling themselves too much?
yeah,
And then secondly, like, are they able to take feedback and actually apply that feedback? Because oftentimes, like, if I provide like some detailed feedback, like I want to make sure that that's applied. And then the third is just, do they work hard?
mm,
Because like I work hard and I expect people to work hard, especially if
yeah.
they're getting paid good money. So
Are most of the people you hire on, are they people that you've known in the past, or are there some that they just reached out, they sent you like a portfolio or something like that, or how?
yeah, so the guy from Vietnam, my buddy Stian,
Mm-hmm.
shout out Stian, he hooked me up with him, and it's always good to have like people recommend
Yeah.
other people. That's always like a trusted thing. So he recommended him. He works with Stian, and now he helps me out with things. And so I didn't know him, but other people, I try to hire like people I know, who I know like could use a little bit of help getting
Mm-hmm.
started and stuff, like my brother and other people like from Unfold Days and
Yeah.
around here locally.
Yeah. If we go back to your time at Unfold, so Eddie and David, they were the ones. I'm assuming they're kind of your mentors for the whole graphic design industry, and they taught you graphic design. They taught you what they knew. You were hired on by them,
Yep.
and then when was the moment where you decided to move away from Unfold and start your own business? And what was that moment like?
All right. How do I go about this? So we started Unfold. It was first I was working with Eddie, then David got let go from a job that he worked at,
Mm-hmm.
and they came together and they created Unfold, and I was employee number one.
And what was
Patient.
Unfold?
What do you mean? What was
What
Unfold?
was for the viewers? Like, can you kind of
Oh
explain
yeah,
what
yeah.
Unfold was?
So Unfold is essentially just a design agency with all of us kind of local people here,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a partnership between Eddie and David,
Okay.
and then they started hiring people that they knew, people who wanted to get into the space like me and others who came after me.
Gotcha.
And it was people that were at the Hive, which was like where people would just rent desks and work together.
Like a co-working space.
Yeah, a co-working space. We work, but not
Mhm.
on such a grand scale.
Gotcha. And then kind of continue on the moment where you realized you had to. You were
Yeah.
gonna leave.
So for me, like every time I would work with a client for, typically like my client work lasts about a year to 2 years.
Dang.
And eventually, like I would hit some kind of ceiling, you know. If I feel like I'm stuck and I can't grow, and it's been like months of just like plateau, I feel like I need to start. I'm the kind where I always need to keep growing. And with Unfold, there was two factors that contributed to me leaving. One was I feel like I kind of reached like the cap there. There wasn't really much more room to grow. And secondly, like the company started going in a different direction that we didn't really like, because like we had like the original squad that basically created the company. We set an awesome like work environment. Everybody loved it. We all had fun. It was amazing. And then the company started changing, started hiring like different people, and it just became very corporate structured. And that's the part that I didn't really like. So eventually it came to a point where I was just like, I got to move on, you know? And when I left Unfold, I was already making the same, if not more, freelancing. But I still like stuck around because I was scared about like, I'm going to go off on my own, you know, like what's going to happen. So I probably stayed there a little bit longer than I should have, but it was a great company, and I never wanted to leave, but things just ended that way.
What would you recommend to someone that has a full-time job, but they want to pursue or turn their hobby into a full-time career? When should they make that transition, and what would you recommend for them?
I think once you're making like a solid secondary income, and of course that's like a difficult thing to do, but like when I got started with design, I would work with my dad from like 8-9 a.m. to like 3-4 p.m. And then from 4 p.m. like every night I'd work till 12 a.m. like midnight, you know, and then do that every day basically of the week. And once I started making a little bit of money, I just jumped straight into it. But obviously my situation was different. I lived with my parents, didn't have to rent, didn't have kids, family. If you have payments, family, kids, and responsibilities, then you should wait until that secondary income is making enough to cover the bills, you know, and then a little bit extra. Because if you just dip out from your job and expect like, okay, this is going to pick up. No, first get there, first grind it out for the year or two or however long it takes, and then, you know, switch.
Make the transition.
Yeah.
So knowing everything that you know now about graphic design and the whole business aspect of it, what would you tell yourself? What's the biggest advice you would tell yourself if you could go back like to your younger self when you were just starting out in graphic design? What would you tell that person?
I'll tell myself to charge more.
True.
Just because like I mentioned earlier, your career, it's kind of like a ladder, you know. Like eventually you're gonna charge more, but like if you're already at that level, like why not just skip a few pegs and charge what you want to be charging? You don't have to like, you know, take forever to get there. Charge more. 1, 2, learn how to communicate early on, because like when I first got started, I just did all the work at Unfold. I never talked to clients. And then I remember like my first call with the client. Oh my goodness, bro. It was terrible, dude. I was shaking. I was stuttering. Like that whole meeting was just a blur. Like I have no idea what happened in that meeting. And then, you know, I kept doing it more and more and getting a little bit more comfortable. And if I never learned to speak and communicate with clients, I would have never been able to leave Unfold and like, you know, go off on my own. Because one of the most undervalued like skills is communication. Usually like when I see the top people in companies, they're not necessarily like the most creative or crazy designers out there. They're just people who can communicate, give feedback, you know, be savages in meetings. Those are the people that make it to the top.
Right.
Did you ever sign that client, the first one that you were on the call with, or do you not remember?
So this was when I was working for Unfold.
Oh,
so,
gotcha.
Yeah, they just gave me the client and said, hey, time to grow up. Yeah.
Just put you in the spotlight.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good lesson even for like small business owners too. I mean, you're not going to be hiring a salesperson off the bat. You know, you're not going to be hiring someone that's going to be talking for you. You know, it's at the beginning, it's just you, and you're having all the hats in the business. You know, you're the sales guy, you're the advertiser, you're the worker, you know, you're the employee, everything, you know?
Yeah,
So
everything. You're the garbage man, you're the
yeah,
cook.
Exactly. So if you can't sell your service or your product, I mean, no one's going to sell it for you, you know? So that's definitely something that every small business owner needs to learn: how to communicate, how to sell your product, how to talk to clients.
Also, I mean, that sales guy that you're going to hire on later on, he's not gonna know the business like you know the business.
Yeah.
He's not gonna know the ins and outs. He's not gonna know actually how much to charge. He's not gonna know what to say. So you're in essence, you're gonna have to train him up to say exactly what you want him to say, or else he's gonna. I mean, if the person he's talking to asks him a question and he doesn't know the answer to, I mean, that's a pretty dead end right there.
Yeah, I had John was working for me for a little bit. He was my sales guy, and he would get on a call, and he's just saying some random stuff, and I'm hearing him in the back because my desk was right behind him, and he's like on a call with
Dang,
some
bro.
guy. I mean, he doesn't know the business like I do. You know, I'm a video production company. You know, so like I know like what I'm selling. I know what my service is, but John is just he just hopped on, and he doesn't know. I mean, he was used to selling car parts. You know,
Yeah.
so he would hop on a call and he's just saying some random stuff, and I'm like looking back, like, what are you saying right now?
I
You
said
know?
what I had to say. No,
Whatever makes a sale.
yeah, no, but it's true because I mean I don't know the business like David knows the business. He
Yeah.
knows all the video equipment. Like one of the questions I think they asked me was like, "What kind of video equipment do you use?" And I'm like, "A camera." You know, like what else am I gonna say?
Yeah.
Like a drone, a camera. They're like, okay, but yeah,
Yeah,
just-
it's like I would say it's pretty difficult in the design space to like know what to charge, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody really talks about it. Everybody like keeps their numbers quiet and secret. At least that I know. So
Yeah.
it was definitely like a learning experience, how to sell yourself, like how much should you charge. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
How are you able to get over the fear of like, all right, I want to charge this client this amount. This is the most I've ever charged, but what if I don't land them? You know?
Yeah, that's a good question. I remember like typing up an email and it's like the most I ever charged. And I would like pace around the room. I'd be like thinking like, man, should I do this? You know,
Yeah.
I'd just like press the send button. Eventually like you just get to the point where it's like, okay, I have these clients that I'm working with. They're providing me enough income to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to charge what I want from moving forward. You know, if the client does agree, then it's,
It is what it is.
yeah, it is what it is. Or you send them an offer, they say, hey, we can't do that, and you counter offer, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You just go back and forth until it makes sense for both parties.
Yeah.
But if they're not willing to pay, then eventually you just got to say no.
Yeah. I had a situation where I was on a call with the client, and I knew they were a pretty big company, so I wanted to charge a certain amount. But for some reason, I forgot to ask them how much their budget is or how much they were willing to, planning to spend on this project.
I thought you were
Like-
going to say you forgot to add a zero to the invoice.
I should've.
I forgot to ask them what their budget was, and basically asked me how much I would charge for this one project, and I was like thinking, I'm like, oh man, like on the spot, you know, I had to come up with the number on the spot, and in that moment, I should have been like, I'll run the numbers and then get
That's-
back to you, you know.
Yeah, that's what I learned.
Yeah.
Never say just on the spot. If somebody
Yeah.
asks you, you always say, hey, I'm going to think about it. I'll get back to you, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I always say.
Exactly. That's what I should have done, but I was just like, I spit out a number, you know. I was like, whatever, I'll spit out a number. And he looks at me, he's like, have you had any sales experience before? I'm like, no, not really. I'm still learning. He's like, okay, here's a
Bro
tip
got
for you.
That was wild, bro.
He gave me a tip on the spot, a little lesson, but he was like, never give prices until you ask the company what they're willing to spend or like what their budget is.
Yeah,
And he's just laughing as he's saying this, and I'm like, fudge, man.
that's hilarious. Yeah.
So I could have probably upcharged them so much, you know, like gave them a price and they would have been fine with it. Cause I mean, they're a pretty big company, you know, but because I wasn't prepared for the question and I wasn't I didn't know what to do in that situation, I'm stuck at this certain price, you know, when in reality, I probably could have made triple that.
Damn, the
quadruple that.
client literally said you should have charged me more.
Yeah. He legit said that.
is-
Yeah. I
We
mean, you
just
can
said
always
that.
renegotiate down the road, you know,
Yeah.
when it doesn't make sense. Some people might understand, others might not.
Yeah.
But another thing like that reminded me from the book, they were saying like never like offer your services until you've prescribed like the problem, you know, because a lot of people, they just jump into like, I can do this for you. They're like, the client's like, okay, like what issue are you solving for, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, I'm just trying to make it look better. Like that's not a good enough answer.
Yeah.
So you gotta like prescribe the issue, what you're gonna do for them. And I think you talked about this on a different pod a bit. Like you have to sell your service to them for them to understand the value, you know,
Yeah.
why it costs this much.
Yeah, I always have editors reaching out to me in like DMs and Instagram DMs, and they're like, "Your videos look good, but we can make them look better." And I'm like, "They're working right now, you know, the videos,
Yeah, exactly.
the content, it's working, it's producing leads, you know, it's doing its job. What problem are you solving, you know? They're not really solving any problem. They're
Yeah.
just quote unquote want to make it look better. That's not an issue, you know. They would want to solve.
Yeah. And then there are a lot of like graphic design agencies around us, and not around us, but like in the United States and everything. So what do you do that makes yourself stand out from everyone else or from competition?
I think just my target audience is different. Like a lot of like I mentioned, a lot of these agencies, they usually specialize in something. So like it'll be like a massive branding agency, you know, they just do branding. There's like a massive like web design company, they just do web design. What we do is like we just fill in the gaps for your company wherever you need it, whether you need some work done on your app, you know, design a banner, create a website. And I think that's what a lot of companies like, because they can get everything they need from you. They don't have to hire, you know, 5 different companies to do 5 different things. So we're just kind of like the one-stop shop, I guess. I don't really like using that term because like that makes it seem cheap.
Yeah.
But we do just provide the solutions that our clients need, and that's, I guess, what differentiates us. Plus, like, the world's a pretty big place. There's tons of clients and tons of work out there. And with everything going digital, like, there's more and more design work every year, you know?
For sure. And I know David mentioned, we had the Super Bowl recently, and David mentioned that one of your designs could have ended up on the Super Bowl. Did it ever end up in the Super Bowl or no?
No, it didn't.
But
Unfortunately.
what's that like, that like I know you had some other stuff that did end up on advertisements or on TV or anything. What is that like, seeing your stuff on TV, you know?
It's pretty cool. Like, I think that's like the coolest when you see your designs like live, because I always see it like on the screen. You know, I create these mock-ups which look realistic, but they're not real. But once you actually see like the logo or the brand or whatever you design a billboard live, like it's definitely hits different.
Yeah.
My goal is to make it into Times Square eventually. Get like a design or a brand featured there. One of my buddies actually, he designed one of the AI logos, and they IPO'd, so they plastered the logo all over Times Square. Like that's a pretty sick case study, you know, to show that. But yeah, it's definitely awesome seeing it. Like I just did a branding for a company in Tennessee, and they got like the logo printed all over their truck. And now I'm doing like a 10-foot billboard for them that they're going to display there. So that's always cool to see the work live, you know?
What's some companies that you work with that you've seen your stuff on TV?
I haven't really seen too much on TV, like the designs I do, because a lot of the TV stuff that you see is like marketing handles that, you know? I'm sure a lot of the work that I've done has been like, you know, posted places that I just don't know about. But I do remember like what was pretty cool. I did a logo, and Conor McGregor tweeted it.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, and it got like millions of views. And it's like a logo I did. They made like a little animation of him with like a tattoo of the logo on it.
Yeah.
So that was pretty awesome.
Dang.
Conor McGregor, dang.
That's a lot. Yeah.
That's crazy.
What's your favorite thing about what you do?
My favorite thing is like solving problems, but I also really love what I do. So like it's very enjoyable for me, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like I get to make cool things, I get to make pretty things, and I get paid a ton of money for it. Like
That's true. That's a good way to put it.
and I feel like I'm just like not playing games, but like I'm just having fun, you know?
Yeah.
I'm on the computer, sitting in the AC, listening to music, watching the Twin Pod, and just working.
Yeah.
And I'm getting paid for it. Like what can be worse, you know? I think I have this outlook on it because I worked in construction, so I know what like hard labor is, you know? I know what it is like mixing and cement and putting tile and all that.
It's crazy. It's like almost like not a real job, you know?
Yeah.
But it is. I mean, it's
Paying the bills.
paying the bills, but it's also intensive on your brain and everything like that. I mean, you can't sit at a computer for 10 hours straight, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely completely different. Like when I worked on construction, like I would eat whatever I wanted to, and it's physical labor, so you're sweating it all off. When I transitioned to office work, I had the same diet. I didn't change my diet, and I gained like 50 pounds, you know? And then I'm like, I have this brain fog. I'm passing out after lunch. We just stuffed ourselves with like a public sub, you know? You're crashing at the end of the day. and I had to like adjust and learn. Okay, like I need to eat a lot less. I'm not doing any physical labor. So that's when I started doing keto and that kind of stuff, and that helped me get my weight back under control and just be more clear mentally, because it is like a lot of mental work with this what we do.
You mentioned to me about a website called Brain FM, and it's kind of like Spotify, or back in the day, if people remember Pandora. I don't know if that's still around. Have you heard of Pandora?
It's still around, but I think it like rebranded into something else. It's
Yeah.
kind of like MySpace. It still exists, but it's not really what it was, you know?
I got you. But basically, what Brain FM does, um, it. Can you explain what it is? Because I
Yeah.
know you're big on it right now.
Yeah, so Brain FM, what they do essentially is they have scientists, they put people to sleep or have people working,
Uh-huh.
and they put these sensors on their brain, and they track their brain waves,
Yeah.
and then they tune certain like binaural sound waves to, target different parts of your brain. So if you're trying to focus, you turn on like this kind of like upbeat binaural wave brain wave lengths. I don't know, like I'm not a scientist on this stuff.
Yeah.
But essentially, like if you want to sleep, there's different waves that like
Mm-hmm.
calm your brain and like put you into a deep sleep. And I really like it for focus. Like it gets me in the zone, like tunnel vision. And I also use it like when I sleep, and I feel like it gives me like pretty vivid dreams.
Are you using this basically every day? This app?
Yeah, I use it like every night when I sleep.
That's
For like
crazy.
the last couple of years.
Uh-huh.
And what's funny is like I just found them and I started using them, and then like a year or two later they reached out to Unfold and we worked with them.
Oh wow.
So like I was actually part of the process for the rebranding their logo, and some other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember a few months ago, you had told me about it, and I looked into it, and I bought the subscription for it. And the first time I used it, I got through like 6 hours of work in an hour. It was insane, dude.
go.
I've never been so focused before in my life.
It's crazy, like it works, you
Yeah.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Like they actually know what they're talking about.
Yeah. You put on the headphones, and it's what the sound it gave me was like I think it was like waves or something, or wind.
Mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't music, it wasn't anything, it was literally just wind in the background with waves crashing. And I've never been so focused before, It's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, now they have like a ton of categories, so you can like do classical music, you can do like
Yeah.
cinematic music, like they have all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. And it's cool because every time you click like or dislike on the song, it will tailor the playlist to what you start to like,
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. All right, Ted. So you're still pretty young. How old are you?
28.
28. Yeah, you're really young still, and you already accomplished so much in your life. I mean, business, house, wife, kids, family. You've accomplished so much. So what's something that you did that you'd be able to accomplish all these goals in your life?
Yeah, once I was getting started, like with getting into design, I did watch like some motivational speakers and stuff on YouTube,
Mhm.
and one of them was saying like you have to write down goals. If you're trying to, if you ask a lot of people nowadays, like they're like, I want to be a millionaire, and you
Mhm.
ask them like, okay, how are you gonna get there? They'll be like, oh, real estate, like they don't actually have a plan. They don't have actually like any goals set. So what I did was when I got started, I still have the notebook. I wrote down in 3 weeks I want to spend like 3 hours a day designing. In 3 months I want to spend part-time designing. And then I wrote like in a year or two I want to buy a Tesla. And then I want to build a house. I want to get married and have kids.
Mhm.
And now like I look back at the little notebook and like all of that's been achieved, So
Dang.
I'm definitely glad I set those goals.
Mhm.
And I got to find that notebook and share it. It's pretty cool.
So all the goals that you've written down, they're already accomplished, or
Yeah,
that were in the notebook?
they're basically accomplished, which means I got to set bigger goals.
Oh man.
But also they were not accomplished at the speed that I thought I was going to get there.
Mm.
It took me a lot longer, And with this kind of work, that if you go off the beaten path
Yeah.
and do something that not everybody's doing, because like the beaten path is like, okay, you're going to go to college, you're going to get an internship, you'll find a 9 to 5, you'll get a career, you'll start climbing the ladder, But if you go off by yourself, try to create your own company, grow it, there's a lot more reward, but there's a lot more risk and there's a lot more headache,
Mhm.
And a lot of people don't see like the 12 hours, 13-hour days, grinding out like in the trenches for years until
Yeah.
you get to a certain point. They usually see like the final polished, image that people try to portray, but
Yeah.
there is a lot of ups and downs and that kind of thing. So like I remember the first year of design, I made like 24K,
Mm-hmm.
and then like years and years pass, you grow, you get smarter, you get better. Then like there's been months where I've doubled that in a month,
Yeah.
So like it's definitely a steady grind, but if you stick it out, if you learn, if you grow, like you'll eventually get there. And if you're passionate about it and love it.
Yeah, people see the Tesla, but they don't see the beaten down Scion that people used to drive, back in the day.
Yeah, the Scion.
Do you have any like major goals that you have for yourself? So you like to set goals. Do you have any major goals for like 10 years down the road, or maybe like 30 years down the road that you set for yourself that you want to accomplish, or any of them that you can share with us at least?
A goal that I've been trying to achieve for a while, or like thinking about, is eventually creating some kind of product or service of my own.
Okay.
Because every single client I work with, this is an idea or a product that somebody came up with. They got funding for it. They hired me. I designed it for them, and they're gonna make unlimited money off of it.
Yeah.
So like I've been in this space for close to a decade now, and like it doesn't make sense for me not to do that for myself. I'm in the digital space, especially with like digital businesses, because with like physical businesses, you have to worry about like supply chains, like physical products, moving, shipping, all that stuff. With digital, you just click a button, you subscribe.
Yeah.
Dang.
That's all you need.
That's true.
And if you have 100,000 subscribers paying a couple dollars a month, like that's it. You're chilling,
Yeah, you
You're
don't
working for yourself. So I think long term, that's my goal. And I've had so many different ideas, but like I get started, then 5 clients drop, like 5 clients hire us, and I'm just like super busy. So that's one thing I want to do. Another is start investing into S&P 500, because currently like all my investment portfolios in Bitcoin, basically.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on Bitcoin?
I am definitely bullish on Bitcoin. This is not financial advice. If I was to tell anybody to invest in anything, it'd probably be Bitcoin. But don't listen to me. Do what you do.
Do your own research.
Yeah. With Bitcoin, like it's gotten to the point. There's always like this threshold where some new technology or some new currency or some new thing, once it crosses a threshold, it's too late to put it back in the box. Like we're experiencing that with AI now. Like no matter what we do, like AI is gonna keep getting better and crazier and more advanced. Like now you can type a prompt and you can have a like 4K video.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm worried about my future.
Yeah, no, it's definitely scary for sure.
I literally just read about that yesterday. I saw the transition from a year ago for exactly what you're saying, AI, where you type in a prompt and then it makes a video. A year ago, it looked like crap. It didn't look good at all.
Yeah.
And then yesterday, they posted a video of what AI did, and I was like, bro, it looks like someone legit filmed that. That's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I was shocked too. And basically, sorry to go back to what the conversation was. Bitcoin's already so massive. Like we have countries purchasing it, investing in it.
Yeah.
Like it's almost too big to fail. So that's what I would kind of recommend. I mean, that's the most returns I've ever seen on anything was with Bitcoin. And the way that I recommend investing is not this like, oh, it's up, let me buy it real quick, and then it crashes and then you panic sell. That's not how you're gonna make money. It's how you're gonna lose. The way you make money with Bitcoin or any of your investments is you invest consistently over time. Whatever that number is, you want to do $50 a week, you want to do $100 a week, $200 a month. Like eventually you're going to open your account in like 5 years and you're going to have a ton of money.
Yeah.
That's how traditional stocks work anyway,
Yeah, and there was actually a study done, and the 2 people that did the best in stock investing was the one person that they either died and their stock portfolio just did really good because no one touched it, or people that forgot that they invested into stocks. And those are the 2 people that did the best. So just put it in there and forget about it pretty much.
Yeah.
What about like NFTs and stuff like that? Because I mean, that was huge. I want to say two years ago probably, but that all crashed. I mean, it all went downhill. Do you think you don't think Bitcoin's going to do the same?
No, like I said, like Bitcoin's so massive, like everybody's using it. With the whole NFT, like it was just a hype. It was and what's funny, like with NFT, is it just spiraled out into like a scam. Like they were just scam artists. They would set up a coin,
Yeah.
have everybody buy in. The second like they launched, released it, everybody bought. It would just tank. They would just move and do the same process over again
wow.
with different branding.
Yeah.
That's what NFT became. There are like a few very like some of the first ones are like the biggest ones that are still alive and like actually sticking to their word and creating things. Like Gary V, he has the V Friends NFT, and he's doing like little cards, and I think he wants to do cartoons eventually, and basically create like his own Disney. And then there's some of the other bigger ones, but NFTs was just like it was more of like an insurance thing, like this is proof that you have, like undeniable proof that you have this asset. That's all NFTs was, and they just started making 10,000 collections of pictures and making money off it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So we were talking about AI, and so are you worried about AI taking over your job, or what are you doing so that you can stand out from whatever AI could do?
I think the people that should worry about AI taking over their jobs are people that are the Fiverr designers, that we talked about.
Yeah.
Because you're really not providing like a skilled service. You're still at that like very entry level. And I've seen some AI logos or like AI images, and they can definitely put you out of business.
Dang.
But I think some of the medium tier to top tier designers, they're going to use AI as a tool to make them faster and better. And I use AI now all the time. Like I generate pictures of people that look realistic. So instead of like, imagine if we're like 50 years ago, no, okay, that's a little too far. 20 years ago, the beginning of like the tech era.
Yeah.
If I want to take product photos from my business, I need to go hire a studio. They have to go hire a person. They got to take pictures of them.
Yeah.
Edit them, send them to me. I put them on my website, Now I just go to Midjourney, I generate whatever prompt I want.
Yeah.
Within like 30 seconds, I have a crispy, like almost perfect image that I can put on the website.
Wow.
So me as like kind of like a more skilled designer, you can say, I can use Midjourney to my advantage. Whereas like, I think if you're just starting off, you might find some competition with AI. I guess it depends on like the complexity of the problems you solve. If you solve very simple problems, then AI could take it over. But if you run a complex operation, then it might not,
Yeah, I feel like the one thing that AI doesn't have is the human aspect and the experience aspect. So you could put into AI a prompt and, hey, give me a logo for this and this and this, and it'll spit something out. But you as a human and with your multiple years of experience can look at that logo and be like, this isn't going to work because I've seen the trends in my multiple years of experience and I know what's going to convert and what's not going to convert. And then you could change that up. And I feel like that's the one thing that AI won't take over is experience and human aspect.
And probably emotion as well. I mean, computers, they don't really understand emotion,
Two things about that. Like one thing with AI, people generally don't really understand like the different kinds of AI. The AI that everybody's worried about is like the what's it called? Like self-understanding or AI with free will,
Okay,
it's going to go off and do something on its own. And I think we're still pretty far off from that. The AI that we're really good at is you tell AI to do something and it does it for you, That's the kind of the AI that's taking over right now. The image generation, video generation, speech, all that kind of stuff. The second thing is CEOs of companies, they don't have time to sit there and like finick with AI and generate assets, like big companies.
Yeah.
So regardless whether AI is like could do what you do, the big companies will still hire you to do that. You know what I mean? With AI, like a CEO of a company has like a million things to do. He doesn't have time to sit there and like find images for a website, for example.
Yeah.
So I guess if you become an expert with like the new AI technology that's coming out, like you'll be good regardless.
You can use it to your advantage, basically.
Exactly.
There has to be someone that inputs the prompts into the AI.
Yeah.
It has to be that person.
Yeah, the people who don't use AI, they're gonna be the ones falling behind.
That's a good
makes
point.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, with AI, there's this feature where when I'm editing, right, I could have AI cut all the dead silences from a video. That used to take me, if it's an hour-long video, I mean, it's gonna take me probably an hour and a half to go through that whole thing, cut out all the silences. When AI can do that in literally a minute, that saves me an hour and a half of time.
Exactly. Yeah. Now you're faster, you're better,
Yeah,
and you're using AI. It's
Yeah.
not killing you.
exactly. That's a good point.
It's the way you got to think about it. Like everyone's scared, like, oh, is AI going to take over my job?
Mm-hmm.
Like you got to think about, okay, how do I use AI to do more, to be better, to outperform the competition?
Yeah. Ted, is there any quote that just has been inspiring you lately to do better in your business?
There's one Bible verse that I like to reference often. It's Colossians 3:23. It says, "Do everything as for the Lord, not for human masters." And in the context, it's either Peter or Paul, and he's telling servants like, do everything like as for the glory of God, you
Yeah.
know, not just for human masters. But I take that like in my business, how it applies to my business is like everything I do, I try to give more than 100%. You know, I do all the little fine details. I make sure to take the time to, adjust things and make it look right.
Yeah.
And I think that's what separates me also from like, some of the competition or other people.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, in everything you do, if you do it for the Lord, I mean, you're going to be doing 110%.
Exactly.
And that's going to, like you said, it's going to separate you from all your competition, because they could just be doing it for a paycheck. They could just be doing it just to check it off, but you're doing
Exactly,
it
yeah.
for a greater purpose than that. So that's definitely one way as we as Christians can differentiate ourselves and our businesses and what we do from everyone else in the world. So
Yep.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
So you're would you consider yourself a specialist in graphic design?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
So what's 3 tips you would give to someone that would also want to specialize in graphic design?
3 tips. I think you need to have some kind of artistic sense to start off,
Mm-hmm.
But 3 tips, I have to think about it for a second. I would say get ready to receive feedback, and you have to have kind of like a thick skin in this business, because a lot of like people who are artistic, they create something they're passionate about, they're happy, and a client comes in and just roasts you and cooks
Yeah.
you, and you're like, oh man, that sucks.
Yeah.
But it happens often. Like that's the business. So be able to receive critique and feedback. That'd be one tip. Another tip is find somebody who's doing this and who's already successful that you can link up with. I was lucky because like Eddie Lobanovsky, David Kovalev, they're like super, top-notch designers, and they literally go to my church. You know, like what are the chances of that?
Yeah.
So find a mentor, find somebody who knows what they're doing. They're gonna help you grow a lot faster than if you were just gonna go by yourself. Because by yourself, like who knows where you'll end up,
Yeah.
And then the third tip is, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Like it's a grind,
For sure.
and you have to be passionate about it. Because if you just kind of like it and you have a little bit of fun, you're not gonna get to the top tier. You gotta love it. Like when I spent my half my net worth buying that stuff, I made a commitment that day. Like I'm gonna grind it out. I'm gonna make this work. And in the beginning, I was almost like trying to prove everybody wrong. Like that I could do it. So find a mentor. Be good at taking criticism and critique, and just put your head down and work.
That's good. All right, Ted, thank you so much for being on.
Yeah.
So much wisdom, so much advice you've given.
Oh, yeah.
And I hope that people that are watching this can take something away from what Ted said, implement to their own business. Graphic designers, you guys could implement a lot of what he said to your own business. So, yeah, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. You mind if I close this out?
Sure, of course.
All right. If you guys enjoy this pod and you want to see more just like it, hit the subscribe, ring the notification bell. A lot more awesome stuff coming. Drop a comment of which part you enjoyed the most, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Dang. We got to have Ted every time doing our outro.